There we go.
Yeah, I'll make this real quick. Somebody mentioned on coffee hour about ornaments, and I started making ornaments about 6 years ago for the grandchildren. So if you take a look at these, like the ice cream cones, double dipped ice cream cones are about 2 inches. What I did is any of the light colored wood is just dowel rod I stuck in the chuck and turned. The cones are textured with decorating elf. The smaller pieces of the bottoms of the cone, the dark chocolate is walnut. And I also made a spoon about 2 inches long because my daughter was into baking. When I made the spoon, again, I just used a dowel rod. And I made the spoon round, and then I just took a knife and carved off the top of the spoon so I could then use I don't know if I used a Dremel tool or just a spoon gouge, a tiny spoon gouge to make the rest of the spoon. So also Keith Lauterbaugh uses woods from different places. The pink birdhouse, the top of the pink birdhouse, the acorn top is from James Monroe's house. And so I have a rattle and I have a couple cones and things like that. So just thought I'd mention it and show them to you.
Those natural acorn tops.
What's that?
Are those natural acorn tops?
Yes, they are. Yeah, they're laying around all the time. I think I have a tiny toolbox drawer full of them. So, and actually, if you have a lot of acorn tops, what's nice is you can turn the bottom part and then just grab a few acorns until you find the right one and get it to fit on. I did want to mention that I use number 8 fish hooks and just cut off the hook part. I use those for my eye hooks because all the ones that I've gotten or seen, and I know somebody, one of the people on Zoom or at one of our meetings suggested a place to get like 60 of them for I don't know how much. But anyways, they were still too large and relative to the size of the ornament. So I simply use the fisheye hooks and I drill a small hole, and I usually let the hole be slightly smaller than the fisheye hook, and then or the eye hook, and then I jam it in a little bit along with some epoxy.
Great.
Mark Skinner, you got your hand up? You asked for the question? Mark Skinner, you have a question?
No, I just had some multi-axis journey to show. So.
Okay, we'll get to you next. Okay, in a bit.
All right, thank you everyone for all you do for the club, and you're really sharing a lot of great things with me. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
The next thing we have was sent in by Henry Fisher. I'm sure it's show and tell. You'll see his bowls that he has made. They're very beautiful with the new coring jig. Henry, you want to? Sure.
Yeah, so those of you that are interested in the Bradford pear, that's what this is. That was cored back on January 1st, cored and rough turned. That is the woodcut. Well, Woodcut Tools makes the coring system. It's a bowl saver, they call it. So I got 2 cores out of that one. And then I let them sit until a few weeks ago, whatever. They were down to less than 10% moisture. So I finished turning them, and I cut out this slot in the rim, the epoxy resin, just to add some character to it. So, and the finish on it, I put 3 coats of the Waterlox finish on there. So,
Is the jig is it made specific for different machines, or do you buy one and then you adapt it to your machine?
you buy one and you adapt it to your machine. It has, well, you can actually, you have to specify what size tool post you want for your tool rest, which this is a 1 inch. And then it does go into the tailstock. There's a part that goes into the tailstock. So it sits in the banjo in the, just like a
Okay.
tool rest does. And then another part goes into the tailstock. It does not have the supporting arm like the one-way system does. It's just the knife.
You slide it in or out so that the cutter load is directly over the tool rest. Like the post.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're first cut here, I can see that the load path is pretty much directly over the post of the tool rest.
Correct.
So when you move to the smaller one, do you slide the jig in more so that the load
Yes.
remains over the post?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And for the smaller one, it is a smaller knife. There are two knives on that one. I think I took the other one off. This picture, it doesn't have that one. But yeah, there are two different knives, two different sizes. The big one that I have on in the picture, I think that one will do up to 12 inches in diameter. And then the small, I forget what the maximum diameter is on that one.
So you have a knife for each one?
Two different ones, yeah.
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 They look great.
Finished off the bottoms of them. They all three look the same on the bottom. Thank you.
Yeah. They look nice.
Who else you got, Barry? Barry, we're on your laptop, on your,
I got this thing. And this is Bob Silverman.
Yeah, this is Siberian elm burl scrap pieces that I put into acrylic and set it up, made it into a nice box. This is also Siberian elm up on top for a knob. There's another film there. You can see the inside of it. This was made for my daughter-in-law. I'm bringing out to Arizona on Thursday. So that's a nice box. I mean, it's just, and it wasn't, this one cooperated. There really wasn't a whole lot of chip out or anything on there. So
Siberian elm cast in acrylic.
cast in acrylic, yes. And then it's finished with wax. That's all I put on them. So I had trouble. I was doing doing lacquer on there, but I started getting some odd coat. The finish was weird, and I called the company, and they just said, "Well, you need to let it sit for 5 days before you touch it." Now this had already set for 7 days in the pot, and they said, "Well, it bleeds off something." I wiped it down with alcohol and some other pieces that other suggestions that they had, and it really didn't make a difference. Every time I sprayed it, I got the same weird undulations, these divots in it, and the healing. And even if you take them out, every time you sprayed them, they would come back. So I sanded it all down and just finished it off with sanding paste and wax. Here's another one. Okay, that's it. This one is the bottom. It should show the bottom of a small bowl, and it's peach pits that I sliced in half and dried them and put them in there in green epoxy, and turned out really nice. Color is really nice, and these turn really nice. Like these turn like there's a wood inclusion in the epoxy. You don't have any problem of dragging it out or chipping out of one at all. I think there was another one that showed the actual bowl. I don't know
What
if
is
you
the
have it.
diameter of this one, Bob?
That one is 5.5 inches by I think 2 or 3. You don't have that one? No. Okay. Well, I sent it to them. So
Well, I did load 4 pictures of yours.
I sent 4 pictures to you. Yeah, 2 of each.
I downloaded the 4, but I'm drawing a blank on it right now.
Okay, well, it's no big. It just showed the side of it. So it showed it as a bowl rather than just the bottom of it. It just came out really nice. I've been dunking a lot of stuff into epoxy, especially nuts and anything that has a weird edge to it. I did one with I don't see, here it is down here. There it is. That shows the top part of it anyway. That's trying to think of what I used there. I think that's pine, actually. I was going to take that out and leave it all epoxy, but it complemented the nuts, so I just left, or the shells, so I just left it in there. It just came out smooth. But I've been dunking a lot of stuff, black walnut shells and anything that has the weird shape and gives a nice appearance in there in contrast to the epoxy. It comes out really nice. People like them, and these are, again, for I'm using a different total boat now, and these finish up real nice. I really don't get a whole lot of chipping. I have some that I'll never finish because every time I touch them, they chip. Even though I'm using a negative rake scraper, and even with sharpened high-speed steel, they still chip. This doesn't. This is a slow set total boat, and it works out pretty nice.
How do you cut those pits without cutting your fingers off?
Got to be real careful on the bandsaw. Okay, I mean it's real careful. But they split. I can split two hemispheres in those just using a sharp knife. Once they're dry, they become brittle, and you just work your way in between the two halves, and it'll pop open. So now some of them I've cut. You can see I cut in half, and those I cut on the bandsaw to get more of a volume to go in there.
Do you use a vacuum to degas them to get all the air out, or pressure pot, or both?
No. I use a pressure pot afterwards, but I don't degas them to begin with. And I know that's a technique some people use, but I haven't found it necessary. I don't get bubbles at all, and hasn't been my problem.
Nice.
Like I say, my problems with, I usually like to use lacquer because it gives it a really nice high shine to it. But like I say, unfortunately, I can't get them to work on a regular basis with this epoxy. So it looks great with the wax on there, with carnauba wax. It shines up nice.
Have you tried a friction polish?
I use friction polish on the small ones. I've been making birdhouses I have a show coming up, and it works fine on smaller things, but on bigger ones, I end up getting streak marks on the bigger ones. When I have it on a lathe and I go through there, and I've asked around about that. They say, well, maybe you don't have enough material on there. And I've soaked it. I soaked the rag. I soaked it on there, and I can do it. I can do it on the smaller pieces, on handles and things without a problem. But I get through this, I end up with in the center going out. I see all kind of streak marks. So and then I have to sand it down again. So I save myself the aggravation and got away from that. Because I've tried two different friction polishes. One was it Millard's, and the other one, it was the one that you mixed the three alcohol and not alcohol, OBJ solutions. Okay. And they both streak on me. So either it's my technique or something. So I just, till I get that down straight, I'll just use wax on these. So it works out really well. Normally I make these really thin. This one's probably less than 1/4 of an inch. Usually I try to get them down and they become very translucent. And it looks really nice because you can see the light through there. You can see the lights throughout here, but not like when I get it really thin. But this one was fine. I figured I wasn't gonna this is a lip on the top. That's what it makes it look a little heavier, but it's it's not. This is not as thin as I'd like to get them, but for this particular bow, it looks the thickness is perfect.
Any more on there, Barry?
No,
Okay.
Anyone else at home in Zoom land? With show and tell?
I think Mark Skinner had something.
Mark's, did you have something? There he is.
Just for the challenge.
Sure.
Okay, so I just tried a screwdriver handle.
Hold it close to your face. You're merging into your background.
Yeah.
Oh.
You can see the triangular handle. Yeah. And did an additional blank.
Is that with 3 cent? Are you working that with 3 centers?
Yes, you can see them here.
Yeah.
I tried a couple different radii. Smaller worked better. But so anyways, it was fun.
Okay. Anybody else in the Zoom with show and tell? Jack Cap, what do you got?
There we are.
We're looking at you.
My son and I took in range from Texas, did a demonstration, and he turned
Oh, wow.
an oval and then a sphere to go in it. This was three different points on the bottom.
Very cool.
how many axes was that?
It's three.
So the center and 2 sides.
That's right.
Wow.
Very nice.
It's worthless. All it does is collect dust.
There's solid ones. They're
That's
professional.
about to use in the exercise.
Yeah.
Anybody else out there? We got a
A
bunch of-
question on how far apart were those centers and from the off-center points from the center?
I think they were 1 3/8 inches.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other show and tell? For anyone in Zoom land? Okay, we can move on to folks in the room.
I've got a challenge piece.
Sure, we'll make
Yeah.
them up. Yep.
You can mix them up. You got a table full of stuff here to go through.
Sorry.
Come around to this side of the table.
I don't know if I'll be able to wear these slip-ons.
At first glance, this is just a scoop for bird seed, really, for filling my bird feeders. It's a piece of beech, what do you call it, the red leaf, copper beech. I got a couple of sections of it from the local landfill that was just laying there, so as that kind of stuff often does, it found its way home in my truck. Anyhow, at first glance, it's hard to see that it's multi-axis, but when the scoop is sitting level, you got a 15-degree angle here on the handle. I turned the shoe part, or whatever you want to call it, this part here first as just a cylinder, hollowed it out, and then on a set of cold jaws, mounted it so that this part here was would be level. When I first turned it, it was, it expanded out so that the diameter out here equals the diameter right here. So it was the maximum angle of deflection I could get and stay within the diameter of the wood. And it just made this conical shape out here when it was in the rough. And then I just canted it so that it was more or less level and turned it about that second axis, you know, just going around like that. And not happy with how it turned out.
Nice. What are you gonna scoop with that?
Birdseed,
Oh, thank you.
probably nothing, but it'll probably just sit in my house in the hopes that somebody asks a question. But otherwise, its goal was for birdseed. Because it's too big for flour and it's too small for cattle feed.
Kind of over the top for coffee too.
Yeah.
Too right for coffee.
Who else remembers us?
Just a comment about Barry's scoop, just about right size for M&Ms.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
If you're not too big on M&Ms, yeah.
This is one of our visitors.
Yep. My name's Rick Atkins, and I picked up this hobby back in March and fell in love with it. And of course, as I do with most of the things I get involved with, I go a little bit above and, you know. So this is a segmented bowl that I did, and this is actually a door prize for a business meeting that I go to. That when we do our feature presentation, we're supposed to give a door prize, so I offered up a custom piece for whoever won the door prize. So that's what this is, which it's walnut, cherry, and then in the feature ring, I used Purple Heart, Beechwood, Red Heart as the border. And then, of course, you know, I'm still new at this, and my points, the OCD got me. The points didn't quite match up in the glue up. So I drilled them out and filled them with epoxy. So that way it looks nice. So did that one. And then the other thing I did was a little resin and sapele little box that my daughter said she wanted a pumpkin. And I thought about it and I tried something, and then on the bottom you can see the dowel that I made a little bit too big and I couldn't turn it out of the blank. So she's happy with it. So that's what matters. So
I'd like to say that I think Steve is the first person that we've had here who did show and tell as a visitor. He has not yet joined the club.
Not yet. Right, yeah. We'll work on it. Mike and I are feeling a little upset that you don't remember, Barry, that we did show and tell as visitors.
It's giving me heartburn too, I understand, but you have to live with it.
Yeah. We didn't join it after we knew you wouldn't remember anything. Then we made our memory. I know. That way it's always new. Yeah.
If he shows up again next month, you better be a member.
Should we lock the door next month?
hi, Mike. This is my challenge. This is a multi-axis turning. There's no carving on this. It's basically two bowls and I put them together to make a box. I brought it here, well, for the challenge, and also I have a bunch of, I'm looking for opinions. It only fits together one way where all the points match, because even though I used a pattern, that's kind of a guideline rather than a rule, and not all the points actually line up. So as you turn it, it gets off. But I kind of like that somebody can sit here and figure out how it goes together just right. I was going to put an indexing pin in, but I thought, no, maybe I'll leave it not. I don't know if you have an opinion on that one way or the other. And the other, I can do it anyway. It's just, do I really want to have it that it can be locked in one position?
Glue.
Because when I was making that promise, just glue it together
That
and
was my
it
idea.
doesn't open.
Yeah.
And the other thing, it's okay. You gotta turn it a little bit to grab it to open it. So that's all right, but then I thought, well, maybe it would look good with a finial. And maybe not this finial, but I don't know if you have an opinion on that. The problem with a finial on a box is it's gonna get broken. So then I also thought, maybe a knob would be better. I don't know if it's
About like an LED light.
an LED light. Yeah, here we go with the light. With smoke coming out holes in the
Yeah,
side.
exactly.
Thanks, Thomas. Any other opinions not from Thomas?
It doesn't
need a
handle. That's my opinion.
Doesn't need the handle?
Does not need the handle.
Okay, okay.
I don't think you need to index it either.
No,
It's always a bit fun when I get a piece like that to turn it around and see where it finally lines up at.
I agree with that, because I've noticed that people with, when I was used to make boxes, people would want to line the grain up and they're almost like they're opening a safe by turning it back and forth. So I kind of like that you can turn it and line it up or not line it up. But that's my challenge piece.
So I didn't know what the challenge was, but I'm glad that I did it. Each of these was turned on a different axis. So I figured that's multi-axis, right? Yeah, that's multi-axis. So I'm still going down this rabbit hole. I just brought things for people to see, tell me what they think. I'd love people's opinions on which ones they like, which ones they don't like. But I don't have anything new to review. Huh?
They're a little small for rabbits.
They're a little small.
Should be
for rabbits.
bigger.
Okay. Gotta make bigger ones for rabbit holes.
Who else do we have tonight?
Gotta put some LEDs inside them, Thomas.
Okay, I'll ask Mike if he has any extras.
Somebody's got mirrors and boxes there.
Who's mirrors and boxes?
And Ziegler's got some stuff here. Los Angeles.
Sure. Okay. I brought a selection of boxes that I use, rings and buttons that I turn from what you see in the demo. I have a head cold. I tested negative for COVID. I got my shot, so I think I'm good. I'm wearing the mask for your sake. If you want to handle any of these, I brought wipes so that you can clean up afterwards, just not to catch this cold. So there's a ring of ivory. And I find that when I can take a ring, I take a ring or a button. And here's the other half of that ring. So if you want to try to match that, you can. But so that's ivory and epoxy. What I find is that I save the rings. This is for bases of my magic tricks. On the bottom of the base is a segmented ring. I find that I try to use one ring per box. And then I say, well, geez, I can part that into two. And instead of getting rid of a ring, I make another ring. So those are the rings I use for decoration on regular boxes. This is a ring that's, here's a button from the inside of one of these. So this, I've cored out a number of different pieces from this. Can you hold that in front of the camera? Because we need to see them. Yeah.
What camera?
Right here.
Okay, so you can see that the inside is turned. And I've cored out a button plus a couple of rings. The rings that I cored out are on the inside of the box, waiting to be used on another project. These are picture frames. These are also rings that were scored from the bottom of a bowl blank. So this one with the cracked and the black epoxy in it will get some metal leaf on it. This is believe it or not, scrap ebony or leftover ebony. There's another ring from inside the lid. A little lid that snaps into that and makes the box. So this is typically what I do when I find a ring that goes with a box. They stay together until I get the chance to turn them. This is what this used to be. So I'll core out a button plus a couple of rings on the lid.
Is that epoxy? What you have in your hand, is that epoxy?
This?
Yeah.
It's dyed and stabilized.
Is it a burl?
It's maple burl, yep.
Oh, we just can't see it from here, that's. It's, I just think it's too dark, maybe.
Too dark.
How was it stabilized?
It's stabilized in a pressure pot with acrylic resin and dye. I don't do it, I buy it that way.
Okay.
This is also dyed and stabilized, I believe, black ash burl.
Where are you getting the stabilized wood from?
I usually buy it online through stabilizing people that I know. If I have some really pretty wood, burls especially, I'll send those out to be stabilized.
What did you say the rings were made out of?
Pardon?
What did you say the rings were made out of?
Which rings? The yellow rings? These rings?
Yes, what is that made out of? Is that just
Oh.
wood or
What's that?
what is it made out of?
It's made out of the quartz from inside of this lid.
Thank you.
So it's
So
a
they're
type,
stabilized wood also.
yeah, stabilized and colored black ash burl.
Angelo, you referred to the white as ivory. Do you mean ivory wood or synthetic ivory or tagua nuts or what?
No, I killed the elephant myself.
There's probably a story there.
Back in the 90s, you could buy scrap ivory on eBay for pretty cheap money. So that's what that is.
You could also buy dead elephants on eBay. What's that? In the 90s, you could also buy the dead elephants. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yep. I got one more, I think. I got one more.
Well, I actually didn't bring this to show as much as just to get some things, and John helped me out with that earlier. I'm certainly not up to par with any of this other stuff. I'm in awe. I just got my lathe not that long ago. So I turned my first bowl, which isn't bad. But as John said, folks would probably say I need to do a little bit more sanding to get this out because I've still got some rings from scraping, probably with not a great tool or maybe not fast enough or what have you. So that was my first bowl. I took a class and I haven't finished it because, well, first of all, I probably need to sand it, and then I'm going to burn my name in it. So I didn't want to put a finish on it until I burned my name.
So tell folks where the shape comes from.
Well, the shape came from a ceramic bowl I made probably 45 years ago in college, a ceramic bowl. And I looked at it and it was about the same size as the blank that I had. So I thought, well, maybe I'll emulate that. And as I got into it, I realized there were some things about that shape I wasn't in love with. So I tried to improve it a bit. And I will say one thing led to another. I ended up cutting the base a little bit farther in than the other one, but I think I like the smaller base. The piece kind of floats again. And I tried to turn a bit of a return on the inside because it felt better to pick it up. So all in all, I'm not disappointed. I just have some more work to do. So I followed that up with a course or a class, I should say, in Harrisburg Woodcraft a couple weeks ago, piece of cherry. And I was doing okay, but we couldn't finish it. So I took it home. I drilled a hole, a depth hole to make sure I didn't go too far. And as I was coring out or hollowing it, the thing, I suddenly realized that I turned it into a funnel. But I kept working on it because I figured I still had stuff I could learn, just working the wood. So the thickness is not consistent. It gets a little bit too thin at the top. The transition's not too bad. I like the shape, but I don't know what other folks think about it. John suggested that coincidentally that would be a nice stand for that. Or I thought about just displaying it like that and not let anybody look inside and realize that it's actually not a hollow form, it's a full.
If you were to get, say, a piece of that other gentleman's stabilized burl,
Yeah,
you could plug the bottom and it would be visually very interesting, return it.
well,
with the
actually,
burl piece inside it, you have some visual interest on what is a lovely shape.
it's funny what you said that because I was looking at some YouTubes and I thought, well, why not just get a different kind of piece of wood to contrast with this? And nobody will know the difference and it will kind of save the form.
Right, you
I just-
intended it.
Yeah, so that's that. And then lastly, I got a friend of mine who's a baseball fanatic. If anybody remembers, has seen Napoleon Dynamite, the cousin lives in the past. Well, my buddy is Mr. High School, right?
It's your own quesadilla.
Get your own quesadilla. So I made him a baseball bat, a little one, out of ash, but I haven't finished it because I want to burn the equivalent of a Louisville Slugger logo here and then his name up here. But I've never burned with any decent wood burning kits before, so I'm not sure what to expect. I'll practice it, but I don't know. And then I got some, I think it's Ollie's dark wax. And I thought maybe I should get some Ollie's dark oil and put it on here first and then the dark wax so it doesn't look so fresh. I want it to look like it's been around for 50
Get
years.
some pine tar.
Well, I thought about that
Rub it
too.
up the handle.
Yeah, right
goes
here.
away,
Yeah.
What
So
is the piece of wood? Is that ash?
that's ash. I mean, it came from like a 3 and flank, but my wife says she doesn't need any more rolling pins. And I thought, hey, a baseball bat for my buddy will make more sense. So
Do you have a burner?
actually, I'm getting, one is coming tomorrow. It's a 2-burner, a high and a low, with different tips, but I'm not gonna try it first on this.
What you can do for your Louisville Slugger, you have a paper pattern and you glue it on and then you can burn right through the paper.
Yeah, well, so I did make the pattern.
Okay.
It doesn't say Louisville Slugger, it says, I happen to live on Stump Road, so I thought Stumptown Slugger sounded
Sure.
good.
But you can burn through the paper, stick the paper on it.
Well,
burn right
that's
through it.
interesting, because I was gonna do the transfer paper
You can
and
do that too.
that's what I thought I'd do.
You could just burn right through
Yeah.
the paper.
Or you
Okay.
could find someone who has a laser engraver and just ask, type it in and ask them to do it. There's about 4 or 5 people in the region who have them.
I thought about that, but I thought as long as I don't totally trash it.
Yeah.
It'll mean a little more than if I did it mechanically.
Yep, absolutely.
So anyhow, so if anybody has any comments, I mean, first of all, I appreciate this group. I kind of fell into it. I just started turning, and so I'm beside myself at the talent that is in this room and associated with the Thursday morning coffee hours. So thank you.
You know, you rang a bell with that bowl that you went through the bottom.
Yeah,
It's interesting because everybody that's ever done that has plugged the bottom. You mentioned turning it over. Wouldn't that be neat to make a base for that thing, to make it look like it? I mean, nobody'd ever figure that out.
well, I thought about that. I thought that would be fun because
Yeah.
I actually like the form upside down as well.
Then you could put an LED light in.
I'm just not
What the hell?
Yeah, I'm just right. I'm just not sure. This is fairly thin here, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure how to attach a new piece.
I don't know, but everybody's always plugged the little end and plugging the big end. Adds some interest to it. Yeah,
You could bring it up and set the rim in a piece that had a groove in it. And
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
that way to make it a double
That's
fold
true.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
There are lots of things you do with it. You cut it in half. If you made a false you throw it in the fire pit. You made a false bottom.
Right?
like this piece right here to fit in the ring.
Oh, yeah. Right. Exactly. So thanks for those ideas because like I said, they're not done. I was not sure I should bring them, but I appreciate your comments and counsel. Thank you.
Got one more online that's Duxbury. I'm gonna go over it.
Okay with you, Doug?
Yeah, can I do a screen share?
You can try.
I can try. I think I can do this. You went offset. Oh, this is offset turning.
Still rock so far. We don't know. Okay.
Oh, wow.
We got you.
There's two kinds of offset turning. One is parallel offset, one is angular offset. The first one's a crankshaft. That's a 1-inch throw, 3/4 shafts. And then that's a parallel offset. The last one is a parallel offset on 9 centers. So each one of those is a different center. This one's a parallel offset. This is an angular offset. You have 1 center on the bottom and 8 centers around the top. So each one of these is turned on a different center, indexed off the top.
So which of those two do you like better?
Neither one of them. No, the parallel one is probably the most interesting.
Why do you say that?
What?
Why do you say that?
As you offset this one and you get toward, see how these are big on the top? As you get toward the bottom, the center's in here. So your bottom offset is smaller, the diameter smaller. This one is equal size all the way around. You actually bore this first and you turn, like this offset here would be turned to that opening in the bore. So that's how you get the diameter. This one would be, if you turn this a little more, this would be the same diameter or the same opening as this.
Why do you have something running up the center?
It's a vial, it's a bud vase.
Oh, okay.
What if you didn't have the bud vase?
You would have a hole down. Oh, you wouldn't need it. You wouldn't, I don't know.
Then you wouldn't have to turn it.
Yeah, you wouldn't. No, you
have to turn it, you wouldn't have to core it.
you could
might be
turn it
more
without,
interesting. It
yeah,
might be more interesting without the bud vase.
I like the bud.
it could be, yeah. By the way, if you ever take pictures of this, of a clear vase, and you want to make it look more clear, put water in it. I found that it takes a better picture. I don't know why, but it's a much better picture. But anyway,
Spiral staircase.
that's it for me.
Okay.
Great.
Sure.